Hi everyone, my name is Tino and I'm a dietetic intern for Janice at Community Support Services. Today, I will be talking to you about how we turn soybeans into tofu. Let's start by first defining what tofu is. Tofu is a bean curd that is prepared by coagulating soy milk, which is made from soybeans, of course. Some other foods that are made from soybeans are soy milk, edamame, miso, soy protein, soy sauce, tempeh, and soybean oil. Tofu originated from China and has been consumed there for over 2,000 years. It is also traditionally eaten throughout most of Asia, such as Indonesia, Japan, Korea, Singapore, and Thailand. And here's just a fun fact for you. The first time the word tofu was ever used in the English language was in a letter to Benjamin Franklin back in 1770. Tofu is typically packaged in a way that's very similar to how fresh dairy products are packaged to help keep it hydrated. Tofu can be produced in a variety of ways with different densities, such as silken, which is very creamy and used for things such as sauces, smoothies, and desserts. Soft tofu can also be used in similar ways such as silken tofu, but will provide a thicker consistency. Firm tofu is typically great for things like stir fries when it is eaten whole. An extra firm tofu can also be used for things like stir fries, but it won't fall apart as easily. Noting these varieties of different densities of tofu is very important to know which one of them is appropriate for your recipe. Tofu is a very healthy option and can serve as a great meat alternative as it is high in protein, iron, and calcium. It is also relatively low in calories, which makes managing your total caloric intake much easier. Many vegans, vegetarians, Buddhists, and Hindi choose to include tofu in their diet for ethical and/or religious purposes. But in the past few years, tofu has been gaining popularity and now can be found in many restaurants around the world. As many of you know that I myself am vegan and don't eat any meat, so tofu is a big part of my diet. My favorite ways to eat it is as tofu scrambled with potatoes, which is very similar to scrambled eggs, or in a stir fry with some rice, vegetables, and soy sauce. But there are many ways that you can enjoy tofu, such as tofu burgers, tofu skewers, tofu wraps, tofu dumplings, tofu spreads, tofu lasagna, as well as many desserts, such as pies, mousse, and puddings. My favorite brand of tofu is Hodo Soy. The Thai curry nuggets that they make are my absolute favorite. Hodo Soy also supplies chipotle sofritas, which some of you may have had before. So let's take a quick trip to the Hodo Soy headquarters and see how they make their tofu.
Most people don't know where tofu comes from. Tofu's been around for close to 5,000 years. It was discovered, so to speak, from China. It's made from soybeans. And soybeans is one of many types of beans that we eat universally. It takes about 6 steps to make tofu. The first step is you have to source the soybeans. At Hodo, all of our soybeans come from the US. We source them by working with organic farmers. The key element that we look for when we source the soybeans is protein. We want a very high level protein soybeans. So once we get the beans, they come to us in a dry form. We soak them overnight to rehydrate them, to get them soft. This machine essentially takes the soaked soybeans and grind it into a soft slurry. The second step is we cook that slurry. So the reason you cook it is you cannot eat raw soybeans. Our body cannot process that. So you cook it to allow the protein to break out of the beans for easier consumption and for absorption by our body. So once we cook that, we separate the pulp from the milk. The pulp is called okara in Japanese. The okara is a food grade bean extract that we sell to a dairy farm. And the dairy farmer uses as feed, so nothing we make here goes to waste. The milk we use, and that's the foundation of tofu making. Step 3, how do we get milk to become bean curd or tofu? It's very similar to cheese making in that you have a protein-rich milk, just like cow milk, and then you add a coagulant to form it into a curd or a solid. In cheese making, you add a bacteria and you allow that bacteria to grow in the cheese to solidify it. In tofu making, we add a mineral called calcium sulfate. So what you're looking at is the milk getting pumped all the way from the milk holding tank into these bowls. And then you see 2 blades that comes out and mix the milk and the coagulant. And that mineral binds with the protein in the soy milk to form that curd. Once that process happens, we let that curd rest. And it goes around the entire chain of 40 bowls. Then we start the process of making it firmer, step 4. So how do we do that? We break that silken curd. In the breaking of that curd, we allow the water to basically seep out. The H2O between the protein, the water, begin to loosen up that bind, and the curd becomes more and more solid. Once the curd is broken with the blades and dumped into these molds using cheesecloths, we form them into pillow-like shape. And these shapes essentially will get picked up and placed on the press. Step 5 is basically you press the curd to make it firmer. So here we use air hydraulic presses to press our tofu into firm tofu. And the last step is basically removing the tofu from the press and removing the cheesecloths that we use to basically form that curd and cutting it into the shape that we want and packaging for the market. Potosoy is the only company that makes yuba in the United States. Yuba has been called the sexier cousin of tofu, the lingerie of tofu, but yuba essentially is tofu skin. It's a flexible, delicious, chewy form of protein. You basically simmer the soy milk at a certain temperature, and you wait for the protein to form. Essentially, what you're looking at here is the cream of soy milk. But unlike cow milk, where the structure is more yogurt-like, the cream of soy milk is actually more elastic. It smells great to be making yuba, and I love eating it. That's why we make it here at Potosoy. At Potosoy Beanery, we focus on the quality aspect of tofu, keeping the traditional flavors and also the traditional method of making tofu. So give tofu a try.
So I hope you enjoyed learning about tofu today, and I hope that you can give it a try next time you're at the grocery store or at a restaurant. Thanks for watching.